This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Hey! Time for school!
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater, joined by a new friend out of the great state of Texas, Belinda Henson, who is the head of school of Legacy Classical Christian Academy. And they are specifically in Hazlet, Texas. If you guys are familiar with the Texas area, I'm not, but hey, I know it's Hazlet now. So Hazlet, Texas. And they're doing some cool things over there, some pretty unique things that I'm excited for you guys to hear about today. Two or three in particular that we're going to dive into here in just a few minutes that I'm hoping, as always, you guys are able to take at least one thing from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. But of course, before we jump into all of that content, we'll pass it off to the guests to introduce themselves. So without further ado, Belinda, welcome to the podcast today.
Hello. It's great to be here.
We're going to have a blast today. And before we jump into all the content, I ask everybody the same question before we jump in, but I don't give anybody a heads up unless they've listened to podcast episodes before and know this question's coming. But if I was to visit you in the school in Hazlet, Texas, what would you say, Mitchell? You need to eat this and do this to experience Hazlet, Texas.
Well, Hazlet is kind of small. It's surrounded by the city of Fort Worth, but Hazlet itself, there's probably like Sonic and Mr. Jim's. So there's not a lot of like eating. Now, I will say that the church that our location is located in, every Wednesday night, they do a potluck Bible study. So I would say if you're in town on Wednesday, pop into Northgate Church around 6 p.m. to eat there. And something to do, Hazlet is really good with community events. So they have a really great national night out and a really great like 4th of July events and that kind of thing. So they have a big turnout every year for all of their community events that are at the Hazlet City Park, which is actually 2 blocks from our location. So we get a lot of traffic that way.
And there's got to be some good Mexican restaurants, as you and I were talking before we started recording about Mexican restaurants. Is there a good one you would say, Mitchell, you got to get this one because it's authentic, it's legit?
In Hazlet, there is one, and I'm trying to think of the name. I'm thinking of the name in English right now. It's like the House Village, Villa de Grande.
Okay.
Villa Grande. It's Villa Grande is where we go for our Mexican food. So,
okay. All
yes.
right.
But I don't know if it's technically Hazlet or if that would be Fort Worth. But
Fair.
It's close to our location.
Perfect. Well, I was just talking with somebody yesterday on a podcast that I don't probably as this one airs and people are hearing this, it's probably already aired. And the lady who was she's in a town of 1,500 people, and so she's like, "There's not really anything to do here or eat here. You have to go, somewhere else." I was like, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So.
Well, obviously, thank you for taking time out of your day, middle of the week, to talk about your school and what you guys are up to. You guys have got some cool things going on. So before we kind of jump into all that, just real quick, introduce yourself, a little bit of your background, as well as the school. And then obviously I have some specific questions I'll ask you about Legacy and what you guys are doing.
Okay. So I've been an educator since probably 2002. I graduated college in 97 and then didn't really feel led to teaching until later on. So I have 4 children. They are all adults now. So I have one that's 26. He is a software engineer in Dallas. I have one that is 24. He's a stockbroker in Florida. I have a daughter-in-law, and she is a dog mom, and then I have a daughter, Anna, I was trying not to say names. She's 20 and she's in college. And then I have my last one is 18 and in college. And they all graduated from Legacy Classical. So I've been married to my husband for 31 or 32 years. I'm not really sure which one it is right now. He just retired from 28 years in education.
Wow.
And so he is working as a realtor and enjoying his sleeping in and, and showing houses. So, um, and I don't know, we were one of 6 families that started Legacy in 2010. And it's a university model school, and which is a hybrid, part-time at home, part-time at school, which pre-COVID was way more unusual than it is now. So
For sure. All that stuff has grown so much in a good way.
yeah.
Like there's
Oh yeah.
like you and I were talking beforehand, obviously, especially in Texas. If you wanted any type of education model, it is out there, and which is really cool. Like obviously, the U.S. I think is very spoiled in that sense. If you wanted
Yes.
a
Yeah.
micro school, 1-room schoolhouse, a Montessori, a Waldorf, classical, a Christian, non-Christian, private charter. I
Oh,
mean, they're
every
so
day
many.
on Facebook, more and more stuff is popping up, especially around here. I mean, I can't speak to the Dallas side, but the Fort Worth side. I mean, there's so much popping up, and just people out of just those micro schools and stuff, which I think are great,
Yeah.
because they're really providing a need for our community and for students and families. So
Yeah, 100%. Well, I love it. Well, obviously, I'm excited to jump into learning more about Legacy. So, one of the things that stood out to me when you and I first chatted was you shared something about, well, we do it this way so that people can talk about their schooling with their family around the dinner table at the end of the day. And I was like, whoa, that's really unique. So, tell the people who are listening, what is that unique thing you guys do at your school that maybe other schools are not doing?
So, as a classical school, one of the things that you will hear a lot of is the great conversation and being able to teach the children to have really good conversations. And it's usually reserved for the classroom because the students are all in 3rd grade. They're all reading Charlotte's Web. And so then they're all um, coming together and discussing Charlotte's Web in the classroom. But even in great classical schools outside of the classroom, siblings and parents aren't connecting with those sort of educational pieces. So this is our 2nd year of doing this. We have a cycle of history. So this year we're doing ancient history, so creation until about the Olympics. And we have literature that everybody pre-K through 12th grade are reading. And all the history that we're learning is around the same time period. And so now we still have those great conversations in the classrooms because they're surrounded with their students. But now they can take it out to um, their dining room tables in the evenings. And so our literature for history, we do 4 major novels a year, and we call it a read aloud because the idea is we want our families to read aloud the history novel together. Um, and so that all the children, all the parents, they're on the same page and they can have these great conversations at home as well as at school.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. I love it. So typically, I'm assuming, we're talking about schools when they're teaching something. First grader might be learning this one thing, eighth grader might be learning this, fifth grader might be learning something else. So that it's could be chaos at the table or whatever, and trying to share things, and parents trying to keep up with what's learning what, who's learning what. You're saying
Mhm.
every student's kind of getting this. Obviously, they're not learning 2+2 in high school and 2+2 in kindergarten,
Right.
but like they're learning there's something similar that they can all get commonality on around the dinner table. Is what you're saying?
Right. So for instance, we just recently focused on a portion of Exodus where the 10 plagues came upon with the Pharaoh, right? So our younger ones pretty much just learned about the 10 plagues, where our older ones, they learned some deeper theology that goes in with that, which is each plague represented an Egyptian god. And ultimately, it was to show that God is author and creator over everything, even these little g gods, and to show the power that the one true God Yahweh has. And so those are some of the things that we might not speak about with a kindergartner because they don't quite understand the magnitude of that. But our high schoolers, we dug in and we built a chart and we talked about what each little g God says about our Yahweh God. And we had like a whole theological discussion about that. So instead of just memorizing the 10 plagues and talking about frogs and locusts and stuff, we were able to kind of connect it with some deeper theology.
Do you guys repeat things on a yearly basis? So like next year, are you going to do the plagues again, and it's going to be the same, like students learning the same thing? You just switch it up.
So next year everybody will be doing some Middle Ages, and that is because this is our second year. So last year we did modernity, and so this year we're doing ancient history, and we're used to doing a 6-year history cycle. Again, as a classical school, we were being very typical classical. Our second graders are the ones that learned ancient history. Our third graders learned about the rise and the fall of the Roman Empire. Our fourth graders learned about the Middle Ages and the Church Fathers. And so we are in the process of organizing our historical timeline to really be ours. And so bringing it from 6 years of historical timeline into 4 years of historical timeline. So I can tell you that next year we will start with the Olympics, but I'm not really sure how far in the timeline we're going to go. So we'll be as a team discussing that. And but yeah, so my kids had a great education. I love it. But to be completely honest, because I was at home doing 4 children. They all had different historical timelines. They all had different historical novels. They all had different literary novels. They all have different math textbooks. They all had different science textbooks. It was a lot, and so it was a real struggle, and it was always the feedback we got was there's so much work for the families that had multiple children. If you just had one, it's just a regular 4 to 6 hours of schoolwork. But when you're trying to negotiate 4 kids at home all doing different assignments, different content, it was very difficult. And so we had our best re-enrollment ever the year after we instituted this, and it's because everybody's on the same page. They understand, our parents understand that each year their skills are developing and getting deeper and stronger, and they're also running content, but they're also getting they're also building relationships with their siblings and their parents around the content.
And this is year 2 of doing it this way?
I'm sorry?
This is year 2 of you doing it this way? Or how many years has it been for you doing it?
This is our second year.
Okay. So now, knowing what you know now, like obviously you had all these years beforehand, you weren't doing this, you're on year 2. Going back, was there something you would have done differently where you're like, we'd rolled it out, maybe the first year was rough, you're like, oh, doesn't make sense, or parents were like confused, like anything you would have done differently?
No. I mean, I spent a lot of time in prayer, and I did a lot of research. I visited schools. I drove and visited schools. I called some schools in California and Virginia, and I talked through some things with them. And I, and then basically the way I rolled it out after speaking to the school board about it, obviously, and talking to them and having a conversation with our executive team and the teachers. Once they all really got the vision and we understood what we were doing, I just took small pockets of parents and I said, I need to talk to you about something. And we sat down and I talked them through it, and I provided them with uh, a long form handout of all the research that coincides with our changes. And we still had quite a few families who did not want to move in that direction, and they left. So our first year, we we had about 60 students, and then the first year that we did this, we opened with 32. So we dropped about half when we made this change.
That's a big transition, and like
Yeah,
obviously losing people if you weren't depending on that, or you needed the obviously, of course, you needed the income from the students that came in. Is
sure.
it something? Well, obviously for year two, did the numbers then rebound this year? Like they go back up,
Yes.
and you're on it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we started this year with 52, I believe, and like I said, we had like our re-enrollment was the best ever. The families that left, like we had one family that left because they needed their children to be in 5 days a week.
Yep.
So
So not obviously
yeah.
something you could solve. If you're like, well, sorry,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
not something we can do.
Yeah. I couldn't
So,
help that.
with somebody listening that has heard that model that you're doing in year two of, and they're like, oh, I really like that, and never thought about rolling that out or doing that, but they
Mhm.
want to. Any couple things you'd want to like suggest, or them to read, look at, anything for them to maybe do what you guys did in that shift over to this type of model? What would you encourage them to do?
Well, always ask the Lord first to make sure that's the direction that your school should be headed. um, and um, and make sure your school board is 100% on board with it. If you don't have 100% of your school board with your back on that kind of stuff, then it's just going to be an uphill battle. Because obviously we dropped significantly financially, and the school board had to trust me with that decision and with that movement. So, um, what would I what is my advice? So just, if the Lord is calling you to do something, obey him.
Amen. Yeah, I mean that's
So,
good advice for
and
anybody.
just be prepared that, and you that it's going to be, it's not that if the Lord's calling you to do something, it's going to be hard.
Yeah,
You're going to lose friendships. You're going to, um, you know, suffer, but he's faithful, and he's gonna be there on the other side of it as
yeah.
well. If it's his ministry, even if it's his ministry, even if we made this change and nobody re-enrolled and I didn't have a job that year, it's still his ministry, and he decided that that ministry was done. It
Yeah.
was time to do something different. So you just really, it's important to be open-handed
And
with
I know this is
things.
100%, and this is, I know, hard for some people probably to hear, but I've shared this before on the podcast, where just because God tells you to go do something does not mean that it's going to be successful in our human eye or our human mind.
Sure.
Because we go, well, we know what success means. It means we're going to have a full church, we're going to have a full school, we're going to have like whatever. But he's like, well, but if you didn't make this change, maybe you wouldn't be able to minister to this family that I specifically wanted to be brought into those doors of the church or
And
the
it's
school.
really hard to keep focused on that,
And,
because
yeah,
when, in my area, everybody's schools are just exploding in enrollment, and you know, we were falling enrollment. And so, my prayer time was a lot of like, what are you doing, Lord? Could you clue me in? But just taking it one step at a time and just trusting, each moment. And just remembering that it's really not about numbers. It's not about how much money's in the bank. It's about who are we ministering to today?
Yeah.
Who's in front of me?
Yep. Same. And just, our, to go even a step further than that, like your family is your first ministry. And so I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times we focus on the outside. All right, God, what do you want us to do with this church or this school or this whatever? It's like, well, hold on, make sure you're taking care of the one inside the four walls of your home. That's your first. And
Yes.
then the other ones are outside. And I feel like a lot of times we focus on the outside because we're like, we see them as, it's actually was we brought up in our marriage group devotional last night at church, was talking about some of these other things are good things, that they're not
Uh-huh.
bad things, but if they become the sole focus and we forget these other things that God entrusted to us already, well, that's then they're not good. Like you're
Right.
letting that good thing become bad in a way. And so like school could be that. Obviously, if we're putting all our focus into that, we're forgetting
Yes.
our own family. Like that's not good. I know it's completely
No.
off topic what we're talking about, I feel like, but I feel like I needed to share it. That was good.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah.
With your school, I know one of the other things you guys did, you got rid of the A through F grading system. I'd love you
Yes.
to kind of share why and how that rollout has been, and has that also been a part of this last 2-year thing, or has that been always what you guys have done?
So when we were noticing that our enrollment was dropping, we realized that we were going to have to combine grades. And I know that you're excited about me to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And the combining grades was really a financial decision, so that we would be able to afford to stay open. And we, as I was researching combined grades, I was looking and saying, okay, if we're going to do this, it needs to be done well. I love statistics and research, so it needs to be done um, like according to something that has worked prior. I didn't want to just try something out new, and so as I was reaching combined grades, I was that's one of the reasons that led us to content all being the same um, each year. Now, some of the books are different. For instance, my oldest students read the Epic of Gilgamesh, and the younger kids read like a little picture book about Gilgamesh that has not as much specificity to it in the younger grades. And and so then I've got like my oldest students, they read the Odyssey, but then I've got the middle schoolers, they're reading Lord of the Flies, which has nothing to do with ancient history, but it's very appropriate for middle school. So, so there are some variations in the content. I don't want to say that we're just all reading. I'm reading the Odyssey to a 5-year-old. So, um, but the so the combined grades made us realize that we need to really hone in on our content. We started really researching in on objectives, uh, and what our textbooks were teaching, and realizing that a lot of our textbooks, because they are um, provided to us by a textbook company whose goal is to provide strong education, but also to make money, a lot of the textbooks had like third and fourth grade were almost the exact same skills. They only added maybe one or two different skills that year, but they had all different sentences to practice on or something. Or like our writing program, as the writing program we have is designed for multi-age anyways. We've always had that. And so we started looking and seeing, look, we could probably focus more on objectives and skills. And in doing so, we asked ourselves, well, what would those objectives and skills look like, and how would we grade that? And we realized that it was almost impossible to really do a grade system, an A through F grade system, if we're focusing on skills, on mastery of skills. So, for instance, one of the skills that we want our children to have that might necessarily be in like the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills or something like that is um, reading stamina. How long you can sit and read quietly on your own. So my high schoolers, they should be reading 60 to 90 minutes in one sitting without interruption. Now, they don't start off that way. So you start off with like 15 minutes in kindergarten, and then first grade will be 20 minutes, and then you move it up
Right.
every year. But we're watching their growth in that area, so that once they make it to ninth, 10th grade, 60 to 90 minutes of reading the Odyssey is not difficult for them, right? It's just regular home day assignments, right? So we needed to figure out how can we um, keep an eye on how children are mastering concepts and doing well. And so we decided to adopt just a 1 through 4 system. Our system, we have also have a system of skills, and every I'm sorry, 8 to 9 weeks, our teachers review everything that they've been watching, observing, assessing. We do give assessments. I gave an assessment this last week. I had one student, according to the rubric, they got 6 out of 12 points. So that would have been a probably a 40%, right? Or 50%,
Yeah.
if I put it in a grade. But what I'm looking at is this feedback that I've given to my student. Now we're going to go and have a conversation, and we're like, okay, we need to get you to 12. What is it on the rubric that you didn't do that the next time we do an assessment will get you to 12? And to this day, I have students. Just last week, they were asking about we're assessing. They're learning all the countries in Africa, and they said, when do we stop testing on this? And I said, when everybody gets a 100. And that's just a novel thought, even to them, that have been used to grades always, like you can make a 70 and move on. And that's just not what we're doing. We're just continually hitting some of the same skills until they've mastered it. Now we can do that because our classes are small. We don't have more than 12 students in a combined grade. So I don't have more than 12 7th and 8th graders. I don't have more than 12 9th and 10th graders. And I don't know that this would be possible on something that had like 25 or 30 students, you know?
Yeah.
And so this is very, this is what's working for us.
Okay. What does that look?
So,
What does it look like if a student's going through that test and they get a 50%, and all the other 11 kids get 100%, and the next week it's the same thing again? Like, do the other ones move on to another thing while the student's still trying to get to 100 in one thing, and they can't go on to the other thing until they learn that? What does that makeup look like?
it is a balance for sure. And I actually have that situation right now because I have a student that I should also say that I teach the middle school humanities and the high school humanities. So I'm also the teacher for them as well, the head of school. So a lot of my examples are going to be from my own students and how I'm running my classroom. So if you interviewed like any of my other teachers, things are going to be a little bit different in the younger grades than the way I'm doing it. So we have one young boy that's been absent quite a lot, and he's very behind on memorizing we memorized Psalms 33 and some poetry and stuff, and he's very behind on it. And honestly, the benefit of not grading it is that he knows that he's going to just continue to be able to work on it. It's not over. He's not defeated. I didn't make a 20 and I can't ever go back and try again. But it does create a situation where it could hold back the other students. And so I just have to each time something that happens, make a decision. It's part of the beauty of being able to um, be in a university model school, because I talked to his mom just this morning, and we talked about how I could tell he was embarrassed, and that I wanted mom to encourage him that he still needs to continue trying, and that it's okay, and and he's smart, he's going to get there, but he just was had been absent a lot and missed out, and so yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, when you're in an embarrassed state, it is so hard to learn when you're in that state
oh
too. Of
yeah,
like,
and middle school boy, like,
yeah, and when
yeah,
everybody else has moved on, like that is so hard for anybody just to be like,
yeah,
oh, I'm the one that's behind right now. Like that's it's
yeah.
hard to kind of recover in a way your mindset of like getting out of that
Hmm.
vicious cycle that you're
And
in.
you have to really create a culture within the students that they know that not everybody's going to be always on the same every time, and not to put that person down, and
Yeah.
and that sometimes Mrs. Henson is going to have to walk out and spend a little bit more time with that student, and I need you guys all to do your own Socratic seminar about Lord of the Flies. Like you'll ask each other questions about the book you just read while I go and talk to them. So
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. And that goes for anybody listening, for like teacher when you're at home with your kids, or like the way, obviously the way we handle these situations is so important because you can shut down somebody really really quick.
yeah.
Even adults, like I think about
Hmm.
when we're in our marriage group, I was telling you about, the if somebody asks a question that I'm like in my head going, this is a very simple, like I know that everybody should know the answer to this question, but let's just say it's a Bible story, like, wait, so Jesus died for, or what, I don't know, what, something super
Yeah,
simple, and you're
yeah.
like, well, duh. You would go, well, duh. You don't, come on now. You didn't know, never be like, yeah, isn't that awesome? Like, blah, 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 blah. And you share it. Or you go, I love trying to empathize as much as possible. You go, man,
Hmm.
I remember I really struggled with that question too a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and then go into it. Because, man, I know adults are the same way. I don't want to be, nobody wants to be embarrassed and shamed,
No.
obviously, into anything, because you
Mm-mm.
just shut down and don't want to do anything else.
Well, and I think grades do that to our kids. They get to the point that they're embarrassed, and if they start down that trail of like, I'm a C student or I'm always going to make a D, I'm going to stop trying, and it happens over and over and over again. And in they it's really difficult to get them to challenge themselves and try harder if they already have it in their mind, I'm just always going to fail the test.
Yeah.
I'm just a bad test taker. If they start with those kinds of things in their heads, and ultimately, we don't. As we just want to know what they know. I just want to know what they know. We've been speaking for 4 weeks about the Peloponnesian War and the Greeks versus the Persians. What do you remember about what we've been talking about? You know, and some of them are going to remember the dates, and some of them are going to remember the names of the generals, and some of them are going to remember how each army formed against each other. Some are just going to remember who won and who lost, and some of them are going to remember what kind of armor they had.
Yeah.
But and they might not all remember the same thing, but they're going to remember, and it's my job to have them remember what it is that they remember and remember it. That's so stupid, but
Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of
so
kids, I know I did this. You would cram for a test to go, I
yeah.
just need to memorize these 10 things and I can pass the test. And it's like you didn't really understand or know what you were doing. Like
No,
you took it to know the test, and you're like, phew, gone. I don't need that information anymore. It's
I
like,
want them to remember this information 10 years from now.
yeah,
And depending on who the child is will depend on what speaks to them.
yeah,
One of the things that really helped me make this change into not focusing on A through F grades and the kind of testing where you're memorizing dates and things. Now, our students still memorize, like they're memorizing all of Psalms 33. They're memorizing a couple of poems. They're memorizing maps. They're memorizing like historical timelines. So they're memorizing that kind of thing. But I'm not giving them a test and saying, um, you know, what was the name of Odysseus's mom? Okay. and um, and so it's because someone had mentioned to me, when my husband and I go to church and we listen to the sermon, if you handed me a test afterwards to fill out to say whether or not I passed the sermon test, I might not remember anything that is listed there. But if you ask me, what was it that spoke to me that I'm going to take with me, my husband and I both are going to come back with something completely different and completely valuable. Um, and I'm going to remember that more than I'm going to remember the test, the sermon test that I had. So
yeah, what was that Bible verse he shared? The second point, you're like,
I don't know. There's something about Jesus dying on the cross, right? And so
that is very true. It's everybody learns so differently too. When it comes to like, what will you learn? Like if I share a lesson, like when I was a youth pastor years ago, I would share a lesson, and some kid would remember this one random thing. I was like, all right, that's actually not what I wanted you to remember. I wanted you to remember this, but like everybody's so different and unique. Which I think is the perfect. We're all,
but we don't know. It might be that the Holy Spirit wants him to remember that one specific random thought, because later on it's going to be necessary for a conversation he has with someone who does not have salvation. So you just don't know. And by kind of requiring that they learn the things that I think are important and release it to like trusting the Holy Spirit to tell them what's important, and then they're going to tell me what they have remembered is important to them. It's wild. It's a wild way of thinking through education. So
and it never ends. So we're always learning new things, new ways to make it better.
Yeah.
And obviously, so we'll kind of end with this one then, Belinda. Belinda, you've been doing this a long time. You have obviously tons of advice you could give people who are school leaders all across the country. But if you had to kind of sum it up maybe into one piece of advice for all the leaders listening right now, what would that one piece of advice be?
If you think you're in control, you're really not. It's all the Holy Spirit. So just stop stressing about the things that you can control, and just know that, just lean into the faithfulness of our Father, and know that He is working for not just my good, not just Legacy's good, but for every individual student's good.
Amen. That's good. Well, Belinda, you've been doing this a long time. I obviously want to thank you for all of your years to pouring into education, for following the call to start this school and to love on these students. So wishing you and your school obviously nothing but the best, so you guys continue to grow and educate this next generation that's coming behind us. So thank you for giving up your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to our guests for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love the people that I get to interview in this podcast. And as always, I'm hoping you guys are able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Before you guys go, I do want to make sure you are aware of our 3 free resources available here at School Success. And the first one is, of course, the podcast that you're listening to right now. We are dropping weekly episodes every single Monday morning. We want to make sure you guys aren't missing out. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you haven't left a 5-star review, we would love a 5-star review as well. The second one is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner is a button, School Success Report. You just click that and sign up for that. We send it directly to your inbox every single week. It's full of different articles our team has either found or written to help you, the school leader, be more successful. And last but not least is our free Facebook community called School Success Makers. It's an awesome place. I'm personally in there. I'd love to see you in there as well. Get some good community around you, ask questions, and just have some fun. So make sure you are joining our free Facebook community. We'd love to see you in there. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. We'll be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.